Morning folks, and welcome back. It's an absolutely stunning day here in Norfolk, promising to be the warmest day of the summer so far. So I'm quite glad to be in this little bit of woodland amongst the dappled shade, keeping out of the sun. This is a new woodland for me, a new permission. I'm very excited about it. It's mostly deciduous, oak trees, old oak trees, ash, various other species. Yeah, it's going to be a really nice spot for filming future videos, that's for sure. Lovely. This video is in direct response to several questions and queries I had about transporting and storing food while out camping. I thought I'd put a video together, show you what I use and you know, how I keep my food protected and fresh. Now, what food I pack and how I carry it depends hugely on how long I'm out for and what it is I'm actually doing. If I'm out on a backpacking trip, for example, I'm going to pack very differently to how I will if I'm on a canoe trip or car camping or whatever, you know, where space and weight is less of an issue. I'm going to break this video down into two sections: carrying fresh food that needs to be kept cool so that it doesn't spoil, and carrying long life or dehydrated food. And that's where I'm going to start, with the shelf-stable long life food. You can choose from a huge range of readily available supermarket tins and packets that'll last weeks or months without any special storage requirements. Tin food's an option, but the empty tin then becomes a bit of an awkward and heavy item to carry about with you for the rest of the trip. I do use tins sometimes, you know, corned beef, tinned fish, sometimes a can of beans or whatever, but I generally prefer packet food. Either dried, like, you know, pasta meals and dried potatoes, smash, noodles, things like that, or wet pouch food. I'm a big fan of those military 24-hour ration packs and MREs, especially on extended trips. They contain balanced meals and they have a high calorie count, which is important obviously when you're burning calories out on a trip. Certain vegetables and fruit will last well for a prolonged period if you store it carefully in the shade. Potatoes and other root vegetables, for example, onions and garlic, they all travel really well. The other option is to go down the dehydrated meal route. I'll often choose these if I'm out for several days at a time, backpacking, where I'm going to be carrying my food. There's a huge weight saving to be made. You know, you take the water out of food, it's much, much lighter, and it's much more compact, so packing it is easier. You know, you can find water en route to rehydrate your meals, and you've got something tasty to have that doesn't weigh a lot. You can buy a wide range of dehydrated meals from outdoor stores. Some are very good, really tasty and filling, others are less so. But what I have found is that they are all very expensive. Expect to pay £5 to £6 for a single meal, and often the portion size is a bit lacking. With this in mind, another option is to make your own. The possibilities for dehydrating meals are almost limitless. As long as you can remove the fat content or reduce the fat content, then you can dehydrate almost anything. The bonus is that it's cheap, you have complete control of what goes in it, and you can decide on your own portion size. If you're interested in dehydrating your own meals, I'm going to point you in the direction of Kevin Ride's new book, Backcountry Eats. Kevin is the master of dehydrating food, and his book is full of loads of recipes and great ideas. Now, whatever food I take with me to camp, I like to keep it organised and I like to keep it all together and contained. It's just worth saying at this point, you know, I live in England. We don't have any predators to worry about here, not like some of you in other parts of the world, and that's reflected in the bags and the containers that I use. If you are in Canada or somewhere like that where bears are an issue, obviously you'll have to take those extra precautions to make sure that your food is, you know, safe from those predators. I haven't got to worry about that sort of thing. That's not an issue for me. If I'm out backpacking, I tend to carry my food in a lightweight dry bag just to keep it all together, and then I'll organise that food then into meals generally. Each meal I can bag up and label, and I can just pull out that bag and I know that everything is in there that I need for that meal. Sometimes I'll just use reusable Ziploc bags. I can use them again and again. They can become rubbish bags to take my rubbish out and all the rest of it. And sometimes I vacuum pack them, which has the advantage of drawing all that air out and making them a bit smaller to pack and saves a bit of space in my bag. If I haven't got so far to walk to camp, or I'm just out for the day, or I'm canoeing or something like that, or just, you know, just out doing a bit of cooking, then I tend to use heavier weight and much more durable bags like these ones from Friars. I'm a big fan of these. You'll have seen them in videos before. This one here has a roll top, and a Velcro closure, which keeps insects and things out of my food, which is really important in this country. Ants and earwigs and things like that can get into your food, and it's a real pain. Here's a whole range of different bags and pouches, ideal for carrying food. Here's box pouches in particular, which I use for carrying food and my brew kit, amongst other things. And then within these bigger food bags, I'll organise my food into Ziploc bags or containers. Tiffin tins or even your billy can are really useful for storing dried ingredients like rice and pulses and things like that. And I'm a huge fan of these small Nalgene bottles. They're great for storing powders and liquids like honey and oil and things. They're completely leak proof and crush proof. I use these in my brew kit as well for storing sugar, tea and coffee. They are really handy. On canoe trips, I transport my food bags along with my kitchen kit in waterproof plastic canoe barrels. This keeps everything protected and it keeps it all dry if the barrel ends up in the water. And the added bonus is that they make really useful camp furniture. Comfortable seat, something to chop your veg on, a table, whatever. Very useful. Fresh food is another story altogether and causes a problem when you're away from the comfort and convenience of home. Again, what I take with me and how I transport it varies hugely depending on what it is I'm doing and how long I'm out for. In this country, food will generally last well for a day without refrigerating if you pack it well. If I'm just out for the day cooking, or if I'm out on a multi-day trip and I'm taking fresh food just for the first day, I'll often just wrap it up well and pack it in the middle of my rucksack, pack loads of things around it, and those items act as insulation, and that food will stay fresh and won't spoil for that first day. To extend the life of fresh food a bit further, you can pre-freeze certain items. I tend to do this with meat, and I carry it frozen. I'll also sometimes use a small insulated lunchbox with a couple of those reusable ice blocks in. This works really well, especially if the lunchbox is again packed in the middle of your pack, where it's got that extra insulation around it, or in the middle of your canoe barrel. A length of that Reflectix bubble wrap insulation also works really well to keep your food fresh. Just wrap your food up with one of those reusable ice blocks and bury that in your rucksack, and that will help hugely to keep things fresh for longer. For longer trips by car or by canoe where space isn't a factor, you could opt for a cool box. They're big, they're heavy, they're awkward to carry, they're definitely not a lightweight option, but if you're able to take one along with you, they change things completely. Filled with ice cubes, or better still those big ice blocks, and stored carefully in the shade, limiting the amount of time that they're open while you get things out, they'll keep food and drinks cool for days. This first one is my everyday lunchbox. It's an old Coleman cool box that I've had for years and years, and it goes to work with me every day. I keep my lunch in it, and it keeps my lunch cool and my drinks cool, especially important this time of year. I do occasionally use it on camps. It's useful for keeping food fresh and beer cold, and it works well for sort of 2 or 3 days at most. This cool box is a serious bit of kit. It's a 50-litre cool box from Petromax. They have 2 other sizes, one smaller and one bigger. Mine is the 50-litre, and it's got some sort of high-tech passive insulation in it that will keep contents cool for up to 12 days if used carefully. It's big enough for extended family trips and group use, and inside it has these handy racks to keep items, food items, out of the ice and easily accessible. Obviously the downside is the weight and bulk, but again, if you're car camping or travelling by canoe, it's a game changer. The other bonus about having cool boxes in camp is that, just like with the canoe barrels, they double as camp furniture. This big one makes a fantastic work surface, and you can get a seat cover for it, so it turns into a really comfortable seat in camp. So there you go. These are the ways that I like to carry and store food in camp. Hopefully that's answered some of your questions. Everybody's got their own methods and systems for carrying food. These are just the ways that I found work well for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.